Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my April 2025 finale video. Definitely making this way too comfortably into May. And it's also kind of a sad, depressing video in some ways, I think, some of this reading. So I thought because of that, maybe I'd start with something with a little more life and pizzazz to it, and share a clip of a small little concert I went to recently. There's this like international band called Pharaoh's Daughter, and they play Jewish music. They write and play it, and they recently and they have an album that's based on the Song of Songs. And they were at my synagogue. It was like the third time I've ever seen them in like a span of 25 years, I think. And two of the times were at my synagogue, but the last time was well over a decade ago. And I'm just so excited that they were back, because I listened to their music on and off, and I feel like one of the things I think about is I think when I listen to music, digitally, I gravitate a lot toward, vocalization and, especially female vocalization, and the main singer's a female singer. But also, in general, this band is a band and has like, it's seven people, and most of them are playing instruments, lots of different world instruments. And in person, it's always amazing just to hear the jam session, and just, well, I guess also my sanctuary at the synagogue had good acoustics at too, and good sound. And I don't know if I can capture it. I doubt I could capture it quite the way it was in person. But the final song, it's about Shepherd, and it definitely, people are really getting into it. So I just thought I'd share a little bit. And moving into a more mellow cadence now. First, I'm going to start with reading a short story out of this literary journal, the New England Review, volume 45.3. I start all of these am reading videos by reading a short story, usually out of a literary journal, and this one, in fact, is the final short story that was published in this issue of the New England Review, and come next am reading video, I'll be on to a brand new journal. Anyway, this final story is called Desperate Times, Desperate Crimes by Lou Matthews. We're following this guy named Dale Davis in LA. He's a washed-up screenwriter, and we open on his landlord who has lung cancer and who's dying. And he had a good deal with his landlord, that his landlord helped pay a significant part of his rent. But now that his children, have to get involved and figure out, his financial state, at the very least, Dale's going to have to pay a lot more per month. And so he immediately goes to meet up with some guys from the business, and he has some ideas cooking. One is to try and sell some of his Bukowski books. Another is to try to sell this remake of a blaxploitation film from the 70s, where it's one of those, old man finds life by singeing his head onto a younger guy, and it's supposed to be racial commentary because it's a racist older guy who has to go to death row to find someone who would do something so crazy, and ends up being paired with a black guy. And in a way it sounds like a version of Get Out, but without the actual social commentary that works. I mean, this is I think really supposed to be a cheap knockoff, and Dale is hooking up with other people from the business to try to get this idea off the ground. And it isn't able ultimately to go anywhere, and the story nearer the end is, circles back to his landlord who just died, and it turns out that the siblings are fighting over whether they're even going to, keep the building at all, and so Dale's future really is up in the air. But it seems like he's the type of character who has connections to at least always try to get some other sort of gig, and maybe of questionable means. And so he ends up again back at a diner, and it seems maybe hopeful that one of his associates at least would be able to sell his Bukowski books for him. So that's something. This is a story that's just so rife with a lot of allusions to the Hollywood business culture that I'm not, that familiar with. I think it's very blatantly supposed to be the seedier side of Hollywood, not like the glitzy, glamorous side that people might think of when it comes to making movies. And I did a little research. I found out this is part of linked stories that just earlier this year in 2025, Matthews got published into, a novel and stories. So there's that, and I think we might be following this character around in all of them. For me, I kind of enjoyed it, but it's so thick and there's so much to kind of keep up with, and it still felt so alien to me, this whole tableau, but it's definitely an interesting dip. Moving into another short story collection I talked about in my last am reading video. This is Cowboys and East Indians by Nina McConigley. This is one of the books that's been on my Goodreads TBR for long enough that it made it to my resolution where I'm skimming the top of my Goodreads TBR this year. This is one of those books, getting redundant here. So this is my last started in April book that I'm actually still in the middle of, but I do have the titular story that I finally read, and I can share, a summary and some thoughts with you. So in this story, our main character, her current name, as you might say, is Faith Henderson, and she is the adopted daughter of two actually currently divorced, of Colorado, I think it is. Hopefully I remember the right state there. But anyway, Faith is the adopted daughter of these two white Americans. She was adopted in India. She was left on a church, porch, as it were, and she only knows of her past that her parents, her birth parents, were apparently Hindi because she had a caste mark on her head, and she had the name Ranjani. This is all she really remembers of that past, but now she's living in Colorado, you know, in rural Colorado, you know, doing horse riding and barrel racing, I think it is, but obviously she feels, you know, a bit out of sorts with her reality, and it turns out one day she's driving along and she sees very distinctively South Asian girls, like a, you know, a trio of them, wandering down the highway. And she offers to give them a ride, and they're trying to get to Walmart and to other places where they might be able to buy things to furnish student housing, because they're in the area for graduate school, you know, in mathematics and engineering and that sort of thing. So there's lots of culture shock for them too, like, you know, they're going to all these places that you know, they think are cheap, and I guess we would probably think are cheap too, but it's where you can buy affordable things apparently, and they're, you know, trying to buy things for cooking and for sprucing up their, you know, student housing, and then they, you know, invite a couple of their male compatriots along, and Faith is quite obviously looking for connection. She wants these people to be her people. And I guess that's one thing. I arch my eyebrow a little, like, what about, you know, the rest of her life? And I guess there's nods to, you know, her parents are divorced, and that's when she kind of took a step back from them in a way. It starts calling them by their first names, and maybe, you know, that has something to do with dissociating. And she has this one boyfriend, but he, you know, is the stereotypical, well, I guess you'd say microaggressor in this environment, where he says, well, first he says, I don't see you as brown, and then he says, I see you as exotic. So obviously, you know, they're not on the same page here. He isn't necessarily making her feel like a fully recognized person. And so here's this group of South Asians, and she's trying to kind of, first she's trying to like make a narrative for them where she claims she remembers anything from India at all, but instead, you know, these are memories from her adoptive mother. And she really just wants to be one of them, I think. I mean, she really, you know, wants to be part of something. But really what they see her for as the story goes on, you could really tell, you know, they're not going to see her as part of the community. They just see her as someone with a convenient car when they need it. But the time comes when there's a Diwali celebration at the school, and somebody does forward her, you know, an invite, and Faith, as she is now, you know, is so uncultured about, you know, the, you know, culture she originally came from. She doesn't even really know what Diwali is. So she asks, could I come over? You can help me dress. She has a sari that her adoptive mother used to wear. She makes some chicken. They kind of stand her up, and they're not there immediately to help her, but then they do help her. And then, like, at this final event, like, you can tell this is where the shoe, well, like, she can tell that there just is, in this situation, not feeling like one of the in crowd, that she's still an outsider. There's some, you know, commentary and you know, actions, you know, in story actions about that. And so, yeah, I thought it was, like, definitely an interesting story with all of these, you know, backstory and front story elements about somebody who's trying to find a place for herself and, like, is sort of in between worlds and in between communities. And I'm assuming that, you know, this theme might continue throughout the rest of the book, but and I'll definitely be finishing it very soon. Getting into the books I finished entirely, I'll start with Glance. These are poems by Chanda Feldman, which I ostensibly read for National Poetry Month, and I actually made an entire video where I did a deep dive into some of the poems to try to, you know, review or analyze them in a non-poet sort of way. This is another writer who's really in between worlds, and that's what these poems are largely about. Like, she is a Jew by choice. She married when she converted when she married. She and her husband moved from the U.S. To Israel, and she sees a lot of sort of similar racial tensions happen where she's, as a black woman, doesn't quite feel as home in Israel, but, you know, you can kind of see her reaching out to others who are on the outskirts, and then there's, you know, other poetry about you know, American race relations, and there's poetry about her in the religious Jewish world. And so I already talked in a lot of detail about these poems. I guess I'll say, generally speaking, I kind of thought these were stronger when she was looking into really physical imagery rather than ruminating like on more philosophical points. There were a lot of repeating images of birds, and then I really loved an image from the final poem, which takes place in Paris, where she and her colicky baby are leaning out of a Paris apartment window, and it's like the axis of the world shifts, and it just was a visceral way to say that, you know, she was feeling ungrounded from things. So I really like that poem, and overall I'm grateful to have read this. I will link to my other video down below. I also read Private Rites by Julia Armfield. This book came out, at least in the States, I think, in December of 2024, which technically means in Goodreads Choice Awards it would be eligible for the Goodreads Choice Awards this year, I'm pretty sure. And also, I think it might be in the running, because I know Armfield's last novel, Our Wives Under the Sea, was in the GCA, so maybe it'll be in the running for this year. So I read this ostensibly as a front list science fiction title, and I guess I had some high hopes. I liked her first book a lot, but this one didn't really do as much for me, and it could possibly be part of it is that I didn't listen to it on audio. I do worry a little bit about my attention span in some areas, but I also do think this is a flitting story in a lot of ways, and her writing is kind of flitting, and I think Our Wives Under the Sea, there was something more contained about it. Like there was a surreal horror element to Our Wives Under the Sea, where we center very explicitly on these two women who are married after one of them returns from a spooky submarine trip. But in this one, it's like the characters are part of the larger world in a way, and the larger world, it's a dystopian world. It's a cli-fi story in its way, because it's about climate change, and it takes place, I think, in London, but it would be, and it's in a time where the waters have risen to a degree that people are kind of living life, but there's a lot of changes, and also it can be relatively dangerous, you know, and that culminates at the end of the story. And it's also loosely kind of a King Lear retelling, but I would say probably it's more feels or vibes than that. We're following three sisters, daughters, who are loosely based on Cordelia, Regan, and Goneril. And the Lear character is this man Carmichael, who is actually a very famous architect who was able to build structures to withstand this new world. And he's already dead by the beginning. And if there's any madness in this, I think it comes through the other characters and not through the Lear character. And also, in general, you know, I feel like the female characters are supposed to have a little more depth than certainly most of the characters, the female characters in Lear did, I think. Although, in a way, it's just so insular and self-absorbed, these characters, that two of them could kind of feel a little interchangeable to me, or like they kind of switched places in a way between Act 1 and Act 2. The two older sisters, one of them is, you know, deep into some, you know, revelations, I guess, study of Christianity, I guess, which kind of fits the times, and the other is this neurotic therapist, and her wife is leaving her, and so she's kind of, you know, losing her shit as it is, and then she finds out that her youngest sister, Agnes, gets the house from their dad, and that throws her too. And Agnes is kind of this ne'er-do-well, well, not ne'er-do-well, but sort of, you know, just floating along, no pun intended, barista, doesn't have much going for her, it seems, but she does get a, you know, a girlfriend and I guess a good relationship in this book too. And then there's a twist at the end, and it gets into commentary how Armfield likes questions more than answers and yada yada, but it also feels like it comes out of nowhere. And to me, you know, what worked in Our Wives Under the Sea is it could be surreal because it was such a small contained story, and the surreal element really got really far into fantasy, but this is science fiction, and I'm like, and it has to do with a cult, and I'm like, where did this come from? Like, it just, I don't know, it just seemed like a really abrupt, melodramatic ending for something that was way too ruminative for the rest of it. Like, we're so stuck in these self-absorbed people's heads for most of the story that, that frustrates me too. I guess I think I needed a little, this is where I'm maybe divorcing myself a little from this type of literary fiction. I love interiority and character studies, but it has to be a little more balanced than this, I think. Have to find more of a reason to care about these characters, some more to grasp onto in the broader story. And so, yeah, I guess generally I'm disappointed that it didn't really work for me. I think maybe it's not too surprising. This is, she writes sort of horror-tinged speculative fiction, and I don't know, maybe it's just not my thing. And it's good to know for the future. And the final book I'll hold up is The Showman, Inside the Invasion That Shook the World and Made a Leader Out of Volodymyr Zelensky by Simon Schuster, which I guess you can say has some depressive elements because it is about, a wartime president, a country under siege. It covers particularly Russia's most recent incursions and invasion into Ukraine, the ones that garnered the most international attention are still going on now. And I read this book for the BookTube Prize. So the BookTube Prize was started by Robert Sheard back in 2019 as a way for the literary bookdernet to come together and judge the best in literary fiction and nonfiction published in the US the year before in English. So this year we're reading 2024 releases. We are in the second of 4 rounds. We're in the quarterfinals. We start in the octafinals with lists of 48 books per division, which we whittle down throughout the ensuing months until we get to winners and runners-up. So I am judging nonfiction group D, and I'm pitting this book against 5 others, and I have to zip my lips and not talk explicitly about my feelings about this book until the round is over. I did give my preliminary thoughts on this book and the other 5 books in a video that I will link down below that I made before I started reading. Now, of course, I have to quickly get through reading the other books because our deadline for the quarterfinals is at the end of this month. So that about covers it for me, and I guess I'm transitioning into the fact that we're significantly into May, and I still have a lot on my plate with the BookTube Prize and with other things. I also recently made another readathon video of books I hope to get to this month as well, and movies. And expect me back here on this channel with another TBR video, my page 112 tag, a TBR game I play every month, and I get so excited that many times I pre-film that video like I did this month. So hopefully it'll be up pretty soon. Stay tuned. And I hope you're all doing well with your reading, and if you're doing other things like concerts and so forth, that you're enjoying them as well. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.